The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah!
Go Cowboys!
Let's go, baby!
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com.
We were on the break!
With Nick Eatman, Brian Broaddus, Ambar Garcia, and Derek Eagleton.
It is Thursday, September 8th, 2022, Season 18, Episode number 26. Welcome to the latest edition of The Break. We're live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star, presented by Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. We're getting closer to game day. Actually, the NFL season kicks off tonight. Big game between the Rams and the Bills. But we're going to keep you guys getting ready for Cowboys versus Bucs. That happens this Sunday night on Sunday Night Football. We're today going to zero in on the Tampa defense versus the Cowboys offense. Got a lot of things to talk about there. Lots of interesting matchups. Lots of things to look at that happened last year that may not be able to happen this year because different players are around. But we'll talk about all that when we get into it. I wanted to start first, though, with Mike McCarthy's press conference. He did say he was asked specifically about Tyler Smith and how he's looked so far. Why are you laughing, Nick?
Because he wasn't asked specifically about Tyler Smith.
Yeah,
he was
wasn't.
asked about Tyron Smith,
Yeah.
and then he answered it, and then it caused
my guy Clarence.
3 minutes
It's
of
a rough
like,
day.
yeah.
Rough day. He got the name wrong. It can happen. Tyler Smith,
happen,
Tyron
yeah.
Smith. It
No.
is what it is.
He was asked
but
about
Tyler,
Tyler.
What's up with Tyler? What is he saying about where he thinks he is?
Of course, this isn't good for our show, but he says that he'll find out even more about him after this practice on Thursday, because he said it'll be the best practice within this 2-week period since he's really kind of had to take over. It'll be longer. It'll be with pads. They'll get to see a better look, and also probably get to see kind of go up against what Dan Quinn and that defense is trying to do.
Yeah.
Even more. So, but yeah, he said all the right things on that.
If I was Mike McCarthy and the staff, I would make it a point to put whoever's running scout team across from him. Maybe it's a Fowler or a veteran player. I would just ask, if I'm Quinn, I'm McCarthy, Quinn, those guys, I get together and I say, listen, I need somebody that's going to test him every single rep. I need somebody that's going to play with quickness. I need someone that's going to play with a little snap to him. With the full pads and stuff, this will be a good opportunity to, have somebody attack that outside shoulder. Have somebody try and carry him back inside. See where they're at with that ankle is another thing. That was something, that left ankle was a little bit of a problem for him in the last couple of weeks. I would do everything in my power not to just put somebody over there that's just going to go through the motions of practicing. I would make it a real test for him with a veteran player, just so that he gets a little bit of a feel in those full pads of what maybe is going to happen to him this weekend. This is the one opportunity I think you can do that. And, if I was on the staff, boy, I would surely recommend that.
This might be a dumb question, but going with what you said, if they were to do that and kind of extremely ramp things up for him level-wise, would there be even a concern, given the game is very close and very soon, to not wear the player out, but kind of tire him out before the game day?
Yeah, I think to me it's more about testing him and not – you want him to feel comfortable, but say he goes out and he does have some success. Say Fowler's rushing him, and it doesn't have to be it's going to be a full-speed thing for 3 steps, or try and do things to him that maybe he's going to get from Tampa Bay, from Golston or Tryon or whoever's going to rush him from that outside. Barrett, any one of those guys that's going to come off that edge for him and kind of, and maybe even in the running game, give him that little bit of trying to cut the guy off and be quick and all that. I think he's young, but I want to test him a little bit. I want to see maybe what are some of the faults. If there's some things he struggles with today, maybe it's something you can correct tomorrow. You put it on tape and you say, all right, hey, listen, when you get this particular wide rush, now think about this. I know you've been watching Tampa tape. What have you been seeing from the Tampa guys? They like to rush this way. Maybe give him some of those examples, some of those looks, so it's not something that it's like a surprise when he gets out there. It's kind of like you're preparing for the test. It's stressful, But once you do it, you figure out that this is everything I studied. You know,
the good thing about this defensive line is that we saw this in the preseason. Nobody on the line doesn't have a test because everybody. I mean, who would be a guy that wouldn't push them? You know what I mean? Like even their second and third team rushers and defensive tackles are guys that are pretty good. And that's why they kept so many of them. And I mean, we saw that in the preseason, first two quarters. It was like they still got good players out there because that's all they have. I mean,
maybe you're absolutely right. I think that who are the guys that are going to be on your scout team? Is Sam Williams on that scout team? I mean, you've got a bunch of guys that you can roll at this offensive line, and maybe it's not even the biggest concern. The biggest concern I think for everybody in Cowboy Nation is what's going to happen at left tackle. Nobody's thinking about, McGovern was okay last year, but he got replaced. Nobody's thinking about that. We're all focusing on the questions from the media today were, tell us about Tyler Smith. Dak has to play with a rookie left tackle. Tell us, that's the focus. But you're right, to your point, let's be honest. All these guys can get worked in this practice, and you can kind of get a little bit of a gauge. But if you're going to focus on one guy, to me, I'm going to see how Tyler Smith responds today. Because I'll use that tape to correct him for tomorrow's practice.
So let's look at it from this standpoint. One of the other things that Mike McCarthy said about that topic or about Tyler Smith was he's just got to settle in and play, get in a rhythm. The first thing that pops to my mind when he says that is I would think getting in a rhythm for an offensive lineman is easiest when you're running the ball than it is when you're pass blocking. Do you guys agree with that? And do you think that maybe that is a reason why Dallas should be focused a little more on the run this game, certainly than they were last year when they played Tampa? But do you think that that's maybe the way they have to look at this is they want to give those guys an opportunity, this offensive line that has not had a chance to play together to this point, a little bit of time to gel and get into a rhythm, and maybe running does that? I see that look, Nick. So
I'm thinking. I mean, because there's so many ways to go with this, and you have to even flip to the other side of the ball. Are they afraid of Tom Brady? Are they afraid? Is this a game that they want to try to milk the clock? I wouldn't be that way. I mean, I wouldn't think that way. I think that they've got to just try to move the sticks. And I know that sounds very vague, but I think that's kind of what if you're a balanced team, I think you're going to be better. Last year they put up all these yards. They threw the ball. They didn't want to go. They didn't want to run inside, but they got down to the 2-yard line. They had to run outside. Jarwin missed his block. They had to kick a field goal.
Right.
They couldn't run in there. So I think as balanced as you can be, I get the part, Tyler Smith's a strong guy, and so you can run the ball. But I don't think it's one way or the other. I think it's got to be move the sticks however you can do it, and as balanced as you can be would be better.
And true, but at the same time, when you're preparing for Tom Brady, I mean, you got to try to prepare for like their strongest thing that they have, which would be the passing game. I mean, we talked about it. They're not necessarily a run offense.
Run first,
So that's the thing. Like, I get your point, but at the same time, imagine they're preparing to stop the run or whatever, and then you get into the game, and then Tom Brady is just having a feast in the time of his life in this first to open the season. So you gotta, more than being balanced, I mean, to me personally, I would be, I don't want to say this, yes, you need balance, but I would be trying to focus more on preparing against the passing game.
Yeah, to me, Tom Brady might force you to play that way. If all of a sudden they go no huddle and you can't get defensive personnel on the field, and now they're moving the ball like they did against Philadelphia, and they're up 14-0. And then all of a sudden it's your patience with the running game becomes zero because you have to fight your way back in, probably throwing the football. I really do think this is what's going to tell a lot about Kellen Moore to me when we're watching this game. I think he has to be willing to run the ball when he needs to throw and throw the ball when he needs to run. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where, he has to keep Todd Bowles off balance a little bit. And maybe running the ball is a little bit more about Dak Prescott running the ball a little bit on the read option stuff. Maybe, that's something you're probably not really super prepared for, thinking, well, you watch a lot of tape of Dak, the last couple of years, it hasn't been Dak running the ball. Maybe it's time to kind of dust off that old Dak Prescott running for 5, 6, 7 yards and then getting out of bounds or getting down or whatever he has to do. But I think that if I'm sitting in my press box seat there and Kellen Moore comes out and it's a it's a 2nd and 8, and all of a sudden he's going to run the ball and try and get 5-6 yards out of it, and then make it a more manageable down and distance where you can run or pass. I am all for that because I think he's going to have to play this game kind of a little bit off schedule, and I mean that in a way because you're right, Ambar, about Tom Brady. You just don't know what he's going to do to your defense. But Mike McCarthy told us he's pretty confident he's finally got a defense that can, that you can lean on a little bit.
Yeah, I will say this. I love the power of this offensive line. I think they've got some strength. And so I do think running the ball could be something for them. And that's not just this game. I'm thinking this season. I think running the ball may be a strength for them. But let's also be very clear. This game, if they decide to go the route of running the ball and having a run-heavy offense, good luck with that. You're playing a team that last year was the 3rd best rush defense in the league. This is not an easy team to run against. So if they take that route, they're taking that route knowing we're running into the teeth of what they do, and we're just going to say we're going to impose our will on them.
You know what I just realized? I'm so messed up in my brain right now, so congested. I'm like, running the ball. We're talking about Cowboys offense. We're talking about Tyler Smith, and then I kind of mixed it and matched. I switched it around to the Bucs.
I started it.
I do that too.
No, I started it because what I was saying is before you figure out what you want to do offensively, let's figure out what you're trying to do defensively, and that is, that will play into that. And so if you are trying,
you guys call me out. I'm like,
well, no, the funny part is as I'm doing the rundown every day, inevitably when I'm talking about our offense versus their defense or whatever, sometimes I will get halfway through it and realize I'm doing the wrong one. Like that's just because in your mind you start thinking about something and then you flip to the other side of the ball and you're all the way out in left field.
And this kind of goes to a bigger picture thing, but that's why I think there are some advantages of having a head coach that is not a coordinator of either one.
I agree.
Because that's what he's supposed to do is manage the game. And he can't just be thinking one way. Like if he was a defensive coach, it's like we're gonna attack. When in reality, well, you need to be balanced here. So I think McCarthy's going to have a plan, and I think they play off of each other. So that's kind of why I did that. I think that you can't just have an offensive game plan and just forget what's happening on the other side.
You can have success running the ball against these guys if you block their inside linebackers. If you don't let Levante David and
running running inside, running outside,
running outside.
Okay, because inside they got a lot of beef in there.
They're hard, but what's happened is those guys do a great job of filling. So what you have to do is if you can. Those big guys inside don't move as well.
Yep.
They move well going forward. But when you start to talk laterally, it's a little bit of a problem. What makes them so tough is the down linemen stay square and the backers run. And that's why they're able to play both ways, the defense. If you assured me that you were going to get hats on both of their inside linebackers the whole game, run. Go ahead and run.
How confident are you in this offensive line, particularly the interior part, being able to get to the second level?
That's going to be
You just gave me a solution that doesn't work, Brian.
No, I gave you. I tell you though. I told you if you could block those inside linebackers, they had some success. They had some success getting the ball out on the edge. But if you could assure me that you were going to block those guys the majority of this game, I think you could run the ball.
Yeah.
But there's the side of me that's thinking, well, okay, McGovern getting up second level, maybe Biadasz second level, Martin, yes, second level. Yeah. Maybe, and I'll tell you what, I think Steele is a better run blocker than he is a pass blocker. Mm-hmm. And so if you're telling me that they could scoop the backside, scoop meaning everybody go to the right, and then they get the center up on the linebacker. Those linebackers are going to fly. Martin will get up there. You got to if you could get Steele to take care of his guy, just maybe turn him a little bit, and then get the tight end to push as well. That's how you capture the edge and run the football. Because you're cutting those linebackers. Because if they don't block those linebackers, seriously, 54 and 45 will make every single tackle. I'm not worried about Vita Vea and Hakeem Nicks and those guys inside. I'm worried about Winfield at safety, and I'm worried about the two linebackers. That's what I'm worried about.
I was going to say, since we're talking about the running game and all that, and we talked about Dak Prescott this week earlier on, and thinking that he's ready, mentally, physically, his footwork, his arm, he's ready to go. And one of his things that he does best when he does it is being able to run with the ball. But given the fact, and this is kind of goes both ways, because on one hand, because of what you got on the O-line and the uncertainty, he might be forced to kind of run sometimes and run for his life. But at the same time, given what you got in the O-line, that you don't know exactly how that's going to turn out. I mean, are you trying to kind of limit Dak in his running game?
No.
To protect him?
The last 2 years, I felt like I protected Dak. And it's come a time where you don't have a right tackle anymore. He's gone. You don't have a wide receiver. I'm okay with putting the game in Dak's hands, whether it's throwing the ball. I think Dak is smart enough to know when he can run and be effective. Or, last year, too many times, sack a yard behind the line of scrimmage, sack at the line of scrimmage. That to me was indecision. That was like, I don't really want to run. I can't. Oh, I'm trapped.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. I'm all for now Dak taking off and doing what he has to do. I think a lot of this offense is going to have to. Those plays are back-breaking plays for defenses when Dak takes off and it's a 3rd and 7 and he gets 12 yards. That's a back-breaking play as the drive continues. And I think Dak plays better that way. I think when Dak feels a little bit of mud and blood on his uniform, it makes him a little bit of a different player. So I'm to the point now where let him go. I'm not holding him back. I think that the holding back part of it, and it's you got to go out and find ways to win games. And if him running the football and being physical in those games helps you win, then let's go try and do that.
All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take our first break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Tampa's defense, particularly some of their strengths and weaknesses. Amber and Nick are going to also give us some observations they have about these matchups. We'll talk about that when we come right back. This is DallasCowboys.com radio.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
What do you call a group of grown men and women with their faces painted silver and blue who get together every week to share a 3-hour-long ritual of jumping, singing, and toasting Miller Lite in 10-gallon hats while yelling, "How about them Cowboys?" You call it Miller Time in Dallas. Here's to the Cowboys. Here's to the original light beer. It's Miller Time. Celebrate responsibly. 2021 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
The Cowboys way, where 16 Hall of Famers and 5 championships shows us what success looks like. Where turkey is always the second best part of Thanksgiving Day. Where we are all defined by one single thing, the star. Where we as fans know it's our job to keep the tradition going. Bank of America is proud to be the official bank of the Dallas Cowboys and to support the quest of living life the Cowboys way.
Copyright 2020, Bank of America Corporation.
Lil Sweet! Did you get to work on time?
Yeah, but I just realized it's Sunday.
Lil Sweet says head on home. Dr. Pepper's on its way. So sweet, unique. Baby, there's nothing better. I bet you've probably done something that deserves a Dr. Pepper. Did you invest your nest egg in an NFT?
Yeah, and I don't even know what that is.
It's a non-fungible token. Everyone's done something that deserves a Dr. Pepper.
Back to the break.
Essilor lenses will let you see every exciting play, whether in the stands or at home watching the game. Book an appointment at your local Essilor experts. Find the perfect lens for you. See more, do more, Essilor.
Welcome back. It is the second segment of the break. We are live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. This segment is brought to you by Blockchain.com. Let's talk Tampa defense versus Cowboys offense. Let's start where we always start. Brian, give us your assessment of what this defense does best. What is the thing that the Cowboys have to be most concerned about facing this defense?
We talked about the running, the way they're able to choke the run. And that, to me, I think is their best strength. And I said it earlier because of the linebackers. I think the linebackers are really the key of this. They say, Vita Vea and all that inside. Yeah, he's a problem. Don't get me wrong about that. But where Tampa hurts you is with these linebackers. They never come off the field. They can cover. They can run. They make every tackle. So if you do not block them with any consistency, and they're going to make plays. Don't feel like they're not. but you have to find a way to at least chip them, bump them, do something to get them. Don't just let them run. And because they can get to the outside, they can blitz, they cause problems in the pocket. So yeah, it's that's the thing I worry about the most with the Tampa's defense. I feel like that they've got a lot of really good players, but those are the two best players are those inside linebackers.
You talked about earlier the if the Cowboys had the ability to be able to stop them, they could possibly run to the outside. Obviously, we already understand that. Besides that, what other area are they most vulnerable? Where is an area where you can attack this defense and actually have some success?
Carlton Davis, the cornerback. When you start to talk about the two.
Target. Oh, Waldo.
Waldo.
There's Waldo. Brooks always says, "Who's the guy?"
Yeah, who's your Waldo?
Well, and you always. I mean, when I was working with you guys before, we'd always have these discussions, and then we would never do it. We would never. Yeah. And then my motto on the radio became, "Run the ball outside, run it." And then all of a sudden, it's like during a game, I'm like, they haven't run it outside. They haven't. And next thing you know, it's 7 carries for 71 yards. It's like, why am I sitting there seeing that you can run the ball outside because of how you attack? But to me, you look at these cornerbacks, Jamal Dean, I think Jamal Dean's a good player. I think he's a physical player. I think he's really good as a press corner. He's physical with his hands, the leverage part of it. All that's really, really good with him. Carlton Davis on the other side, though, I don't think he's got really good speed. And so now I'm going to match up somebody that can get by him. I'm going to match up try and find a way to get somebody where all of a sudden he's playing in coverage and it takes a vertical because he's so scared of speed. I think you can almost double move him too because he's like worried I'm going to drive. And once you get past him, then you have an opportunity to make plays down the field. So if I'm going to attack somebody, Carlton Davis is the guy I'm going to attack, and I'm going to try my best to block those linebackers, which I think is the strength of their team.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I hear you say 9. Is that what you're saying?
Turpin. Is he 9? I know that was one of the numbers that he was considering.
He's not really wearing it.
He's wearing it.
Perfect.
Didn't ask for it, he says.
I know.
They just gave it to him. Yeah. So
I like the fact that Christy, he said he really wasn't a big Tony Romo fan. And then Christy Scales asked him a question like, Tony Romo, the quarterback. And so he went back and said, "Oh, no, I'm a huge Romo fan." I give the kid –
I forgot.
I give kid credit for realizing, what did I just say about a guy that played quarterback here for a long time? He corrected himself, and so that was a good thing for him.
I think that he will have to be – I think he should be a part of the offensive game plan as far as the running wide and the fakes, and even you got to give him the ball, but also I think the fakes, especially if he can have some success doing that might open up a little bit to the middle. And I think we've talked about it before. Noah Brown could be an asset on the outside with his ability to block. So if you're going to run Pollard out there, you're going to run Zeke out there, and definitely Turpin. Having him on the edge, I think, is going to be important. But yeah, I'm definitely going to establish Turpin in this game.
I think that Turpin, Zeke, and then even Tony Pollard are 3 elements that can be definitely used to help in the passing game as well. But what I'm curious about, and I want to ask you, Brian, is right now the way I see it is, quote-unquote, like security blanket type of player would be Dalton Schultz. And then you got your main guy who's going to be CeeDee Lamb. So if the Bucs defense was to take out one of those, I mean, as I'm saying it sounds dumb because you're like, okay, take out Dalton Schultz, you still got CeeDee Lamb. But basically, who would be someone that, if they eliminate him, would completely just kind of throw Dak's game off as far as the passing game?
I kind of feel like, though, if they took Schultz away from him, because I feel like that would hurt Dak with that 8 to 10 yard throw because I think when I've talked about the Bucs linebackers, I could see a scenario where it's get them to move and then try and work something back the other way, whether that's Dalton Schultz, Ferguson, somebody, maybe even like you were talking about with Turpin, line him up on one side and run him across while Flo's going away. I'm trying to get these Tampa linebackers to flow and then get somebody out the back door and make it a little bit an easier throw for Dak to have to make. So I think if they took away the tight ends in this game, I think that takes away an easier throw for him. Where on the outside, though, unless Lamb's matched up against Davis, then I think that if Lamb's against Davis, I think Lamb can have some success. Against Dean on the other side, that's going to be a little bit more of a dicey throw, in my opinion, watching them play.
Let's extend that question a little bit. One of the things I thought about, I was looking at the Tampa website, and based on their depth chart, looks like they run a base 3-4 defense, 3 down linemen, 4 linebackers. That being said, is it more advantageous for the Cowboys to run 11 personnel and try to get them out of that base 3-4 and make them have to play nickel? Or do you prefer to have them with 4 down linemen, in their base 3-4? Which do you prefer, 3-4, having them in 3-4, or having them in their nickel? Which one's a better advantage for the Cowboys?
I think, to me, if you keep them in their base 3-4, you can always identify who potentially the 5th rusher is going to be. So to me, I want them to play as much base as possible so I can identify. Maybe I get a pattern from Bowles that, okay, they're always bringing this guy as the rusher. They identify he's going to be – that's the thing that always makes 3-4 fronts hard to deal with. The quarterback has to identify who the 5th rusher is. And some teams are really good at not telling you who that guy is. But I think with the Bucs, they're in a situation where now it's a little bit more like, okay, that's the guy that they use primarily as the rusher. There you go. That's him. You can set your protection off that. Dak knows that. Dak can make those throws and stuff. So I want to keep them in their base as long as I can. But I will say this, though, because Sean Murphy Bunting, who's their nickel back, I think there's some things that you can do with him. I think he's a good player. But I mentioned Davis more because I felt like that he's so speed deficient that I thought, well, maybe you could attack a guy that can't really run and keep up. So that's why I would go him over Murphy Bunting as far as maybe taking the nickel.
And I'm going to call out the fans, the ones that don't necessarily take that next level of what you're trying. They just see from the base and the peripheral, and they're like, another 1-yard run by Zeke. Their coaching staff is stupid. They should be playing Pollard more. It's exactly what Brian just said about this 3-4 base defense, identifying the 5th rusher. Well, the 5th rusher, is he coming here? Is he coming here? And when that happens, who do you want to be sitting next to Dak? Do you want it to be Pollard? Do you want it to be Zeke? So there's more to it than just running the football. And I get it. Like, Pollard is more explosive. I think on 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, you can make a case for the bigger back. You can also make a case for the quicker back, like hit that hole quicker. I think they both got to do it, but it's just like the 2 kickers they had. It's not just who's making it through the field goal. It's who's actually doing the kickoffs. There's another element to this game, and I think Zeke's pass protection is one of the reasons why he stays on the field as much as he does.
It's absolutely right why you do that. Yeah, because his and Pollard's not a tiny guy. Pollard's not a tiny guy, but his pass protection is not as stout as what you get with Zeke. Zeke's ability to sit down and to strike is better than what Tony Pollard's is right now.
Well, extend that question a little bit. Obviously, we know they're going to do a little bit of everything, so this is not a question of all or none. But that being said, going into this game, based on what you've seen so far, where do you feel more comfortable? Them being in 12 personnel with Ferguson on the field, or them being in 11 personnel and having whoever that 3rd receiver is that they decide to rotate in that moment? Which one do you feel more comfortable with right now?
That one, the second one, because it's more versatile too. It's like it's Pollard or it's Turpin or it's I don't know who that 3rd receiver really is going to be.
Simi might get some looks.
I don't know what they're. Maybe. I mean, Simi. I think Tolbert. Someone's going to be inactive.
Yeah, Houston. I think
so you're. Who do we got at receiver?
CD and
we know CD and Noah's going to be out there. Yeah. I mean, beyond that, I think it's going to be a rotation with the other guys.
They might go. They might go a little long at receiver. My gut feeling would probably be Houston would be out. That would be my gut feeling.
He's going to be the inactive.
The inactive guy. Yeah,
really?
That would be my gut.
Yeah.
Just for the time being until they kind of can figure things out. I think the tight ends, to your point, I think you're going to see 12 personnel stuff early, just for the fact that they could put guys over either next to the right tackle or the left tackle, and they could put a tight end, they could put a wing over there, or they can motion across. very similar game plan to what they did to try and help Steele against the Chargers in week 2. It's not going to be Steele block, Steele block, Steele block, Steele. It's going to be Steele chip, Steele cut, Steele guy over there. Make these guys have to play a little bit wide and try and help him with their. Now, that might mess up a rookie blocker, though, too. Sometimes backs and tight ends get in the way when you're trying to block. They're trying to play on your hip. There's not maybe a lot of cohesion between the two because they haven't. You guys like Tyron Smith or other tackles, veteran tackles, they know where Zeke's going to sit. They know where Schultz is going to sit. They know these. So that's going to be a thing. I hope that these tight ends and backs don't get in the way of these tackles having to get these blocks. That's the thing you worry about early in the season.
All right, we're going to take our final break. We'll come back. We got more topics around the Cowboys versus Bucs last year and some of the things we saw that could translate into this year or areas where they won't, and we have to figure out how it's going to actually play out. We'll talk about that when we come back. DallasCowboys.com radio.
Did you get to work on time?
Yeah, but I just realized it's Sunday.
Little Sweet says head on home. Dr. Pepper's on its way. So sweet, unique. Baby, there's nothing better. I bet you've probably done something that deserves a Dr. Pepper. Did you invest your nest egg in an NFT?
Yeah, and I don't even know what that is.
It's a non-fungible token. Everyone's done something that deserves a Dr. Pepper.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Brace yourself for an existential question. Has your butt been having enough fun lately? Have you been treating it well? Has it been going places? If not, then it's about time you start using SeatGeek. SeatGeek is the best way to get your butt tickets to live events. Just ask the thousands of other butts who have rated it the #1 ticketing app. So what are you waiting for? Download the app now or visit SeatGeek.com to get tickets to sports, concerts, and live events and make your butt happy. SeatGeek. Get your seat in a seat.
What do you call a group of grown men and women with their faces painted silver and blue who get together every week to share a 3-hour-long ritual of jumping, sinking, and toasting Miller Lite in 10-gallon hats while yelling, "How about them Cowboys?" You call it Miller Time in Dallas. Here's to the Cowboys. Here's to the original light beer. It's Miller Time. Celebrate responsibly. 2021 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
Back to the break.
Nominate yourself or a friend to be the Cowboys Fan of the Year, presented by Captain Morgan. Win a trip to Super Bowl 57 in Arizona. You can nominate yourself at DallasCowboys.com/fan of the year.
Welcome back. It is the final segment of the break. We are live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. We're presented by Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. We're getting you guys through preparation, Cowboys offense versus the Tampa Bay defense. Let's talk about some of the things that happened last year and maybe how they can maybe show up or not in this year's game. Let's start first with Vita Vea. You mentioned him, Brian. He caused some problems for them last year. How much, throughout what you've seen in training camp, how much do you think Tyler Biadasz has grown since then and now may be in a better position or maybe not in a better position to be able to deal with that much power coming from a guy like Vita Vea?
Kind of wish that – I actually thought Farniak played better than Biadasz myself, all the reps he got. I think that, to me, when – you talk about the ability to run the football, and we were talking about getting blockers up on the second level and stuff like that. I was super impressed with Farniak there. If you said best 5, maybe playing McGovern at center and playing Tyler Smith at left guard, and Tyron Smith could. I mean, that might have been your best 5. I have confidence. I think the thing that the club worried about the most with Biadasz was initially his recognition of fronts and how, I mean, you just don't lose Travis Frederick. I think this team could have, if Travis Frederick was still here, I think they could survive all this turmoil they're going through right now with the offensive line. but you just don't replace a guy that's an athlete, a good power player, and super smart. You just don't do that. And it's been a struggle for that at that center spot. And to me, I like Biotish, but I also felt like that if I could get better, I'd absolutely switch that out right now. They don't see it that way.
They don't see it that way.
They do not. And so
they haven't in a year and a half. They haven't really evaluated that. I mean, they just don't seem to have the panic button at the center position.
Yeah, and that's. But like I say, that you just don't replace Travis Frederick. And I know it's been some years now since he's moved on, but I think that's an area where, I mean, I even looked at it last year at the draft on the draft show with you guys with Linderbaum, the center from Iowa, and they're like, well, he's a little small and this, that, and then, the Cowboys pick Tyler Smith, and the next pick Linderbaum goes to the Ravens, and you go, oh, okay, well. Maybe they like him a little bit more than, So I just feel
he
like
got hurt, didn't he?
Yeah. The center spot, though, is something that, to me, that the center, the right tackle, those are my concerns right now. But when you ask the question, Vita Vea is not going to be easy for him or McGovern or those guys to have to handle during this game. Hopefully he gets wore out that you can run enough plays that you kind of wear him down a little bit.
Nick, you said that you don't think they're pushing the panic button. Do you think they should?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a position that
I mean, at this
it's
point,
it's like the question Derek had. You're giving me a solution, but
right,
yeah,
right. And then you think of the bigger issues that there are. Like I'm sure. I mean, yes, they look at every single position and try to get better at it every time. What Stephen Jones says. What is it? 365 days.
24/7.
So,
except when we're on the boat.
No comment. Anyways, my point is just like when you look at the other issues that you have, how much resources or attention are you even paying attention to the center position?
If you remember the press conference at the draft, I mean, I asked the question about center, and it became everybody was kind of talking about it. Will McClay, I think, got kind of defensive about it, basically saying, who's the best center? I think what he was saying is we didn't really like Linderbaum.
Right.
Yeah.
And so he wasn't.
Y'all are saying that's the best center. To make it clear, I don't
think they felt like there was one center in the draft that was not only better than Biotish, but Farniok.
Yeah.
I don't think that they thought that they needed to do it. Now, they did sign a couple in undrafted free agents.
Yeah.
One of them still here for practice squad, Lindstrom, I believe.
Lindstrom, yeah. And not bad at Boston College. Not a bad player at all. Matter of fact, had good grades on him coming out. I didn't think he was better than the Iowa center, but they probably thought that the Iowa center was undersized.
Yeah.
Short arm guy, but you watch him play, he's cutting defenses in half, and he's getting to the second level. I was thinking if he was here starting, you'd like, okay, here's the matchup you need to watch. Center versus Bucs linebackers. Mm-hmm. Here we go.
Did anyone sign Treader? JC?
I think he's out on the street, yeah.
No, but I had my gang of 7 guys were telling me that he's done, like done.
Okay.
Because he doesn't even practice anymore.
Okay.
And then
of course not. He can't. He doesn't believe in it, right?
Well,
he's the one that was NFLPA.
Yeah,
he's the one that's like, we don't practice.
He doesn't believe in practice.
Another funny thing is, like, do you want the president of the Players Association in your locker room? That's another.
That's
thing.
always been something I kind of wondered if teams are kind of like, when you become the president of the Players Association, you're like, do we really want?
You don't want him in there.
Going to take over now.
Yeah, you don't.
I know. Like you're looking around, the rest of the players are like, I don't want that job.
There's a player is a big part of that.
Well, he's president.
Players.
Yeah, I always thought that was tough.
He's the president of all the players, and there's people that say, do you really want the guy that's in there like, we need this, we need this, we need this. And then it's like management's going, wait a minute, get rid of this guy.
I've said it before. I thought it was completely short-sighted. And
the whole practice thing?
Yeah, I think, and a lot of times what happens is guys that are the representatives of their team are veterans. They're veteran guys, established, not worried about their job. But go look at the 2020 draft class and let's look at those players that didn't get any preseason games and tell me if it's important to play in preseason or off-season. There are guys fighting for their lives that are trying to do that and trying to get jobs. And just because you're a veteran established, those are the guys that make decisions on how often we play in preseason and things like that. And I don't know if they always look at it from the entire group.
But I will say this, I do think the way Mike McCarthy and the Cowboys handled this preseason, to me was exactly how you should. That should be a blueprint for the rest of the league from the standpoint that you use the practices, especially joint practices, to get your veterans work. Game time, let those rookies have a ton. Those young players got a ton of reps this preseason. I mean, they're coming into this season probably more prepared than any group of rookies or young players that I've seen in a long time just from the number of reps they got during the preseason,
Going back to the center thing real quick, sorry. But yes, I agree with you, Derek. Sorry. Switching off subject again. Center. Nick, you know how you're always saying, like, oh, ask Dak, or why don't they? I'm sure Dak has a voice and opinion and all that. I mean, I know he's not gonna come out and say that about Tyler in public or whatever, but where do you think he currently stands? Like, do you think he actually sees him like, you know what, guys, y'all need to kind of help me out here with someone that's better?
Yeah, I do. I do think Dak has a voice, and I think that Dak obviously likes Biotish. And I'm looking at the Browns depth chart when I say that. I think Dak has a voice in who's here and who's not here. I really believe that. And so the fact that he still is the guy, I think, I think so.
Well, again, there was improvement made throughout the years from what I understood. Like, it was not – initially it wasn't – there were some struggles there, and then he got better, is what they're saying. But, yeah, I think Dak fully understands what's ahead of him with this offensive line right now. He knew it in week 2 last year when Terrence Steele started, and Joey Bosa standing there rushing the passer. He knew that. He knows what's going on at left tackle. He has to help these guys.
Yeah.
And, I mean, help in a way of, I can't hold this ball. I've got to, until they get comfortable and, like you were talking about, get in a rhythm of run blocking and pass blocking. You get a rhythm going, and all of a sudden then it's like, okay, let's try some things now. But Tom Brady's going to do the same damn thing because he's got 2 basically rookie guys starting inside for him. He's not, and he knows that if people who attack me attack through the middle, and so I can't hold the ball. So you got 2 quarterbacks that are fully understanding. They're being supportive in the media, but deep down inside they're like, I can't hold this damn ball, or we're going to be in trouble.
Yep. Real quick before we end the show, I did have another defensive lineman I wanted to throw out, Akeem Hicks coming from Chicago.
Yeah.
That's a guy when he's healthy, man, he is a problem. And putting him on that on that defensive line with Vita Vea, my question is, how do you expect them to deploy them? I don't know, Brian, if you've seen any tape of how they maybe use him in the preseason, but is he a guy that flops around? Is he a guy that you can expect he's always going to be on McGovern's side or always going to be on?
They're going to move him around is what they're going to do. The thing about it is they'll put Vita Vea on who they think the weakest player is, whether it's the center or the guard.
About that.
Yeah. That's where I think. And then with Akeem Hicks, I mean, I think that they'll move him. He's more of a one technique. It's a 324-pound guy, right?
Big dude.
What's the weather looking like? I just looked that up because I mean, I think it matters in this game because
you think they're gonna open it?
Because I think NBC always wants that thing to be open, and Jerry usually obliges to that.
I think Tampa practiced outside more than you did this year.
Yeah,
in Tampa,
that's a smart thing for the Cowboys.
I don't think it's
it might hurt your own team.
I don't think it's a smart thing either, but it happens. It happens because
help me understand this. Like, how?
Well, the NBC gives out probably $100 billion to do these games.
Yeah. Okay,
So when they ask, hey, we would love to have an aerial shot of your open stadium.
Yeah.
It happens, and I don't think it should, but I'm just saying it does. But you're right. You got to look at the team and be like, wait a second.
At kickoff, it's going to be 86 balmy degrees. I don't think that's a great idea.
I think Tampa has an advantage there for you.
I think so too.
But if we were playing the Vikings,
right,
or the Packers, Giants, open that bad boy up.
Yeah. And maybe that's
Tampa practices every day in heat.
They do. I talked to Brianna Dix, who covers the Buccaneers, and she's literally got sweat pouring off her face as she's trying to do these stand-ups. So, but it's kind of like us in Arizona that time where you had us do that stand-up.
I had you do it.
Yeah,
that was Nick's idea. Sure.
116 degrees that Nick had us do that stand-up there at that.
I don't know what he was thinking about.
I don't know either.
I'm trying to think, has it ever been that
10
bad?
years.
Like bad at AT&T?
Say again?
Has it ever? I'm trying to remember. Has there ever been a game that it's bad?
Like, honestly, Nick, you say that, but I don't remember a time when
the Cowboys played
this
Philadelphia.
kind of like they're in this time of the year where in Texas it's still pretty warm, where they've had even for a night game. They open the season here regularly enough. I don't remember a time when they've done that this early. Maybe they have. I just don't remember it.
That game against Philadelphia in 2000 that was played at Texas Stadium. It was like 148 on the turf. I mean, we got crushed.
Yeah.
But they didn't have a choice at that game. Like, there's no closing that Texas Stadium.
That was bad.
And a lot of times it's like that week 3 Monday night game.
Yeah.
ESPN will ask for that. But I'm just saying, don't rule it out.
Yeah.
Just like,
I'm with you. I'm with you. I get it.
You say they're going to open this roof this week?
I don't know that. I'm just saying I know that they have. I don't know that. I don't think we ever. Honestly,
I've known you a long time.
You can't always take it at face value what Nick says. You got to read into it a little bit.
I think Nick's been talking to Corey or somebody.
They practice in Oxnard, California, and we were all out there
in hoodies,
in the sun,
in hoodies.
And these guys were. I mean, I was just standing to the side and just watching. I was dying, like dripping in sweat.
In Oxnard,
yes,
that wasn't bad.
It wasn't bad. It was like still get beat down by the sun. It's like 80.
But it wasn't too bad.
The last week, it was pretty bad. Yes, because I had sweat.
74.
Because you had sweat.
Yes, and I'm like, oh my God, this is miserable. And I kept thinking, I'm like, how do these guys do this? Because I'm just standing here and they
go. It was a lot worse here.
Well, let's also be clear. That's funny. Let's also be clear. The last couple weeks since they've gotten back from Oxnard, they've had quite a few practices where they're outside. They're acclimating to that a little bit. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. All right. Appreciate you guys joining us. We'll be back tomorrow. We're going to wrap this thing up tomorrow. Get you guys ready for the game. Give you some predictions. What we think is going to happen this Sunday night. Till then, for Nick Eatman, Brian Broaddus, Amber Garcia, I'm Derek Eagleton. This has been The Break, live on DallasCowboys.com radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!